So guys, let me bring you up to speed with all you need to know about what is now being called the Ibadan Declaration and why this might end up being one of the most important opposition political movements in Nigeria ahead of the 2027 elections. So, on April 25, 2026, opposition political leaders from across Nigeria gathered in Ibadan, Oyo State, for what they called the Opposition Political Parties National Summit. The meeting was held and hosted by the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, and the theme, Safeguarding Nigeria's Democracy, a National Dialogue. Now, on the surface, this might look like another opposition political gathering, but politically, it is much bigger than that, because what came out of the summit was a 9-point political communique, now being referred to as the Ibadan Declaration. This was a coordinated opposition statement with one aim, that is to stop the APC from tightening its grip on Nigeria ahead of the 2027 general elections. And this is where it gets serious. So the opposition says that this is no longer just about party rivalry. They say this is now about survival of multi-party democracy in Nigeria. The argument was simple. If the opposition remains divided ahead of 2027, then the APC wins easily. But if they unite, then the political equation changes. And that was the central purpose of the Ibadan Summit. And that is exactly what the Ibadan Summit Declaration is all about. So what did they actually agree on? So the declaration contains 9 major resolutions. So I'll take it one after the other. The first one was direct political warning. So the opposition says it will resist what the opposition describes as APC's attempt to turn Nigeria into a one-party state. That line is important because that is what set the tone for the entire declaration. So this wasn't framed as normal democratic competition. It was framed as resistance. So the opposition are saying that APC is not just trying to win election, but they're trying to dominate the entire political system so that all opposition remains structurally irrelevant. So the second point was equally direct. The opposition accused APC of already moving to impose President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the sole viable presidential candidate for the 2027 elections. So in other words, they are accusing the ruling party of not just preparing for a re-election, but trying to shape the political environment in a way that weakens every meaningful challenger even before the race begins. And they also made it clear that they will contest, not just rhetoric, but they declared that they will field candidates at all levels to challenge the APC in the forthcoming election. But the third point is where the declaration becomes politically explosive, because this is the point that changes everything. And if they actually follow through, this is the main point in the declaration. The opposition agreed to work together one single presidential candidate for the 2027 elections. One, not two, one. And that is the heart of the declaration. And if they pull that through, that becomes the most electoral threat the APC has faced in years. Because the APC has historically benefited from the reoccurring opposition weaknesses, the division, too many candidates, too many egos. Everybody wants to be president. So the Ibadan Declaration is essentially an admission that the opposition disunity has been the APC's greatest electoral advantage. So let's see. And at this time, they are saying they're about to remove it. So they came to the fourth point, and this is one of the most controversial parts of this declaration. They directly called out the INEC chairman, Professor George Ajo Amopitan, without even missing words. The opposition accused him of being biased and being partisan and playing in favor of the APC. He said the Nigerian people have lost confidence in his ability to conduct a free, fair, transparent and credible election in 2027. They went further to say that his continued stay in the office could trigger widespread national crisis. This is not just criticism, this is a warning. And the fifth point was targeted at the Electoral Act 2026. So the opposition is saying that the National Assembly must, as a matter of urgency, review and remove provisions they believe threaten the integrity of the process and contradict the Constitution. So now we move to the sixth point, and the sixth point is focused on what they describe as political harassment. So the opposition is demanding the immediate release of politicians being detained or harassed on bailable offenses, and they said political participation should not be restricted through intimidation. And then we move to the seventh. The seventh point is about INEC's new guidelines. So The opposition are saying that these guidelines are deliberately designed to frustrate the opposition parties by INEC imposing difficult deadlines and procedural obstacles. So they are specific about their demands. They are telling INEC to extend the deadline for party primaries until the end of July 2026. So we get to the 8 points, which was directed at Nigerians. So the 8 points commended Nigerian citizens for what they described as resilience and readiness to support opposition efforts for a free country from state capture. And that brings us to the 9th point and the final point, which was ceremonial but politically strategic. So they thank Governor Seyi Makinde and the people of Oyo State for hosting the summit. And let us tell you why this matters, because the location was not accidental. Ibadan is not just another city. Ibadan is symbolic. It is one of the most historically significant political cities in Nigeria, a Yoruba political stronghold, a city with a deep opposition memory, a city that is politically symbolic enough to make that meeting feel less like a meeting and more like a statement. And this is where it became politically significant. Among those present were Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Rotimi Amechi, Seyi Makinde, and many other opposition figures across party lines. That alone explains why this declaration is getting the much needed national attention. So if you want us to talk about any part of this declaration, do let me know in the comment section. It was quite a long one, but I tried to make it very brief. It is a truth at a time. Take care and have a nice day.